Hi, my name is Zuzanna Kosobudzka, and I'm one of the co-founders of upLYFT, who was lucky enough to win second place at Infoshare last year. My background's in physics and physical chemistry. I started off in academia before entering the world of startups. So I'm very excited to share my experience about Infoshare. The company was in quite early stages of development, and we're looking for competitions where we could both meet exciting startups working on similar impact areas as we were, and also potentially also talk to future partners, future investors. And Infoshare seemed to combine all of these together. The application process was really straightforward, which is always a nice thing, because as a founder, you're always, especially at those super early stages, you're always struggling to have enough time. So yeah, it was honestly very fast. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was great. Frankly, I've met such cool projects. There were so many medical companies. For example, one of the other finalists, they had this great startup helping with speech. Again, I also loved, the winners. Not only phenomenal startup, also very deep tech, deep sciencey, but also just like great guys to talk to. So I think both in terms of the professional value, but also just in terms of the people you meet, very, very lovely. One of the big things which I actually enjoyed about Infoshare is that there seemed to be quite a high degree of diversity in terms of the type of startups that were pitching them. Sometimes as a hardware business, you find yourself in competitions which aren't necessarily geared towards you, and they're quite heavy on the software side. So what I personally really appreciated is that Infoshare seemed to have this really nice balance of, software solutions, hardware solutions, medical technologies, climate technologies. Frankly, it didn't really matter, what tool specifications you're proposing. It was really focused on impact, just as it stated it would be, which was a very nice surprise, because that's not always been the case for us. I think it was amazing to interact with the attendees of the conference. What I really enjoyed was sort of, I guess, the energy of the people, who are coming up to us either after the semifinals or the finals. I've actually, the company has actually, thanks to Infoshare, facilitated gaining a new mentor, which ended up in our advisory board. So it was just a very supportive environment, so to speak. And it was also, as a Polish person living in the UK, I just really enjoyed being back in Poland and sort of being able to show what, we've been building abroad, but sort of bringing it back to my homeland. That was quite a nice personal touch for me. So I think what's important to note here is that we were very early stage, in the sense that we weren't really in fundraising mode yet. So we haven't been too heavy, or rather too strategic on, we have to target this VC, or we have to target this, high net worth. However, I do believe that, if someone is in the fundraising mode, or as some of my smarter colleagues say, as a startup founder, you should always be in fundraising mode. I think obviously this is very helpful, right? You want to have as many, let's say, targeted encounters as you possibly can. And I think it really depends, so before any sort of conference, right? You as a startup founder have to sort of set your KPIs using the finance talk, which is basically to say, why are you there, right? We were there to foster connections with a wide range of stakeholders, right? Other startups, other investors, other potential research collaborators. But again, if you're going in with, for example, just like specified, I want to talk to investors, then obviously these tools are amazing. Do your homework and go after it, because it's worth it. So I feel like that's unfortunately the bittersweet reality of, going to a conference as a founder is you very often don't have a lot of time to enjoy the conference per se. So in full transparency, I have not had the pleasure of attending the vast majority of speeches just because I was, otherwise engaged. But from the ones I believe I have attended, I definitely attended one, which I remember, which was on AI. And because, last year it was sort of this huge AI boom, I found it very interesting and innovative. And then there was a second one, which I sort of managed to, squeeze in between conversations, which was on, I believe it was on digital addiction, which has frankly nothing to do with what I did professionally, but I found it very interesting and sort of, I guess, a widening perspective, if you will. So it was fun. I also really liked the venue, because I think it's quite a hard task to make a conference as huge as Infoshare, not overwhelming. And I definitely think you guys managed to do that. There's one more thing which I remembered, which I absolutely have to recommend, which is the food. So the food stands outside, oh my god. And this is not a joke. I almost missed the announcement that we became the second place winners because I was waiting for my dumplings. No, I do not recommend that to anyone, but I do recommend the dumplings. They are to die for. Absolutely delicious. Indeed, beginning of this year, so frankly last month, my co-founder and I decided to split and go our separate ways. However, the startup is still thankfully continuing with him. But what I would love to focus on is basically, I guess the first few months after securing second place in Infoshare, because I think it's been really really amazing how much it has sort of helped the company back then. So as I mentioned, there was when we were pitching, we sort of had this serendipitous focus of just trying to get more plugged in the ecosystem, Central European one, just because we're sort of deciding whether we want to focus our early pilots in 2024 purely on the UK, or whether we will try to install a bigger presence in mainland Europe. And so again, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think one of the big pluses of the conferences was its international character and its versatility. It truly was not, there are some conferences which advertise themselves as international, but the moment you go there, it's actually quite local. And that was not the case for Infoshare. So since then, it's we've attended and won a few other awards here and there, and so that created a really, I guess, nice grounding for us to expand our team and sort of build the next iterations of the prototypes. For the time being, we have decided to, retain our focus, let's say locally, so in London, in the UK. However, Infoshare has definitely been a great sort of testing bed or testing ground for forging those connections outside of the United Kingdom. I think I actually have a good one, which is, even if you're a deep tech company like we're, and if you think you're super early, and if you're considering oh, am I too early, am I not, should I apply, you should go for it anyway. And conversely, if, for example, you've applied in the past, but you haven't gone through, and you're wondering, oh, should I apply, reapply, we've tried last time, but it didn't work, again, I would strongly encourage you to apply. So our story is actually, so upLYFT got created around the time, so we came out of an incubator, and just as we got created a few weeks before Infoshare 2022, I guess, deadline. So just being a few weeks old, and having heard about Infoshare, I applied on a whim. And obviously, because we're a few weeks old, we're barely a company, we're not even incorporated yet, I don't think, we got rejected. And so 1 year later, in 2023, by the time we've been operational over a year, I was like, oh man, should I apply again? Will they remember me? After all, we were like this baby company with a deck made on a PowerPoint. And I was like, you know what? We've built something valuable here. Let's give it a shot. You never know what's going to happen. Even though I was very starkly aware that, again, we're still very early on. We're talking about a company, who, by the virtue of being deep tech, all our traction is literally in the form of like letter of intents and sort of like working with different medical institutions, as opposed to having sold X devices for Y amount of money, right? And so we applied, and fast forward, those few months later when the conference actually happened, we ended up being on the podium, the top 3. So I guess this goes to show that even if you think you might be too early on, don't worry, just give it your best shot, because at the end of the day, it is about the impact that you're building and your ability to execute. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents.